Well, that actually, just before we look at more of the footage from tonight, that is, you know, Richie, it's his 8th season there. Now, you know, you look at Barcelona, I think he was there for 4 seasons. He left because, it's interesting tying it up with Klopp, you know, the pressure that was on him. I remember that you know, tearful press conference. Everybody was so upset in Barcelona. He left in the manner he did, took a year off, 3 seasons at Bayern. You know, the success that he's had here now, the contract he has is until the end of next season. Like, do you think that's going to be it, or is he going to stay?
You're trying to ask me to work out what's in Guardiola's head.
Absolutely.
We've all been trying and failing for years to try and work out or second-guess this fella in advance, whether it's team selections or other decisions. I don't know. He's given no public indication at all that he's going to stay or going to leave, as far as I'm aware. No. His contract runs to the end of next season. Where does he go if he's going to leave? Like,
he doesn't go back to Spain.
Yeah, he can't go back there. There's no other club in England I would imagine he would consider going to. Italian football is not of the calibre of the other leagues, nor is French football. Germany, he's done the top club there. So I don't know. I don't know whether Klopp's departure makes a blind bit of difference to him, or whether he's just constantly trying to rinse every extra 0.5% of potential out of every single player and constantly push himself and push everyone around him. Won the treble, win it again, and go win it again. Do you know what I mean? There's no limit to this fella's hunger or his desire. He's never once looked complacent or as if he's lacking in anything. So I have no idea what the fella's going to do. But if he does leave, you asked the question at the top of the show, how familiar should we become with seeing City winning in Europe? And I think if he leaves, that's a seismic shift for that club. They'll still have the same players, they'll still have the same financial situation, as complex as that is. But if he leaves, that's a huge hole that he's going to leave behind him. Yeah, because you kind of say, well, who takes over? You know, like he's actually with the win tonight. Look at him in terms of, you know, this longest unbeaten Champions League run as coach. Ferguson at the top, Pep is on that list twice.
I think Real Madrid's only won the Champions League back-to-back, the only team in the modern era. No Premier League club has won 4 titles on the bounce, so Pep Guardiola's on for that. You know, you look at milestones. Next year is at the end of his contract. He's 9 years. You know, will he sort of stretch it for another year? Give us 10 years, Pep, and then you move on. I mean, I live in Manchester. It's a pretty wet place at times.
Yes. And I'm very different from Barcelona.
Very different. That's what I'm trying to get at. And I'm surprised he's still there, if I'm being honest. But again, you know, with the powers that be at Man City, he's very close to them. So he is the main man at the football club.
And they're his pals from Barcelona.
Yeah, and everything's built around him. So will he get that power elsewhere? Will he want to go elsewhere? He won't manage in the Premier League anywhere. No chance, I don't think, from Man City. There's so many question marks. But if you ask any Liverpool fan now, you know, what's going to happen with Liverpool next year, they're all going, oh my God, I can't believe Klopp's leaving, can't believe Klopp leaving. It'll be the exact same thing when Pep Guardiola finally decides to move on, because we know he can't manage forever.
A big factor, which again we've no way of predicting or understanding at this level, at this stage, is how are all the charges going to play out?
This is the 115
on 115 different
charge,
counts, allegations of wrongdoing. The Premier League have charged the club. We don't know the date of when those charges are going to be heard, and obviously we don't know the outcome. But if they're found to have been guilty of, I don't know what the threshold here. I don't know how many charges have to be proven to be guilty for this to be deemed serious. But if they're found guilty and there isn't a whopper of a sanction, like the kind of sanction which puts the fear of God in everyone else, going, okay, this lot are serious. Rules are there for a reason. If you breach them, that's what happens. Because if the deterrent isn't like clear and from however this case is heard, if they're found guilty, the whole thing is a joke. The whole thing is, there's no even point in us mentioning the rules ever again, never mind trying to understand them or explain them. If you're found to have been guilty of X amount and the sanctions aren't like meaningful and significant and really cut the legs from under you, the whole thing isn't worth the paper it's written on. So if that's the big thing, that's the unanswerable. What does that do then for Guardiola? Then there'll be, like, I read something today talking about summer 2025, because there will be, you know, there'll be, if the club are found guilty of these alleged irregularities, they're entitled to an appeal, and that takes a lot of time, and it just you know, they're lawyered up. You know, they're gonna go as far as they can, as is their right, and that seems to be the personality of the club as well. They're not going to hold back. They're quite confrontational with the authorities. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we won't be waiting for too much longer, because it's getting a bit repetitive, referring to these charges, but having to couch our language because we don't know what's going to happen, but also trying to work out, well, what's been the footballing impact of possible breaches? Because your footballing options are dependent on the money you have or your use of the money that you have. And if they're found to have used their money in incorrect or illegitimate ways, then it kind of tarnishes or discredits a lot of the footballing achievements on the pitch, the bit that's most impressive about them. But the off-the-field stuff creates or impacts what they can do on the field, so we have to find out what happens.
Does that tarnish Pep Guardiola? I don't know. I don't think it does. I know it has to come to a head at some point, but at the same time, you're talking about a football coach, a football manager, guy who coaches the players every single day. You know, he doesn't...
Would it not undermine him?
Would undermine him? Wrongly so, if it did, in my opinion. Because he doesn't balance the books, he doesn't do the accounts, he doesn't do whatever that's accused of them. And Man City do say they think they've got no case to answer. Yes, there's a case to answer because they've been charged, but they think that they've done everything by the book. So I just think from a footballing point of view, as a coach, as a manager, even as the players, you know, I think even Pep's fed up. You know, when he gets asked the question, you can see he gets a bit irritated because it's kind of out of his hands. He is a football coach, a football manager, and these players, they cross the white line. They don't know what the financial situation of the club is.
It does. We're jumping ahead here. Let's say there's
a process.
X amount of the 115 are found to have proven to be true. I think it does stain what the club has achieved on the pitch during the period at which they were in breach, allegedly, if they're found to have been in breach of these rules, because Guardiola is an outstanding coach. The way he plays football, I think, is brilliant. The attitude he imposes on the players is brilliant. But what did we say before the game about the quality of the players in the starting lineup and the quality of the players on the bench? They're there because of the financial clout of the club. And if the financial clout of the club is found to be kind of, whatever the word I'm allowed to use here, then of course that means Guardiola's achievements have been achieved by players that shouldn't have been there in the first place. 100 million, you don't get to spend 100 million on players.
But they're not all 100 million
exactly,
players.
but some of them are there.
Yeah.
By having spent a huge amount of money, and if it's found out that the money they spent was illegitimate spending, and of course it stains. Do you know what I mean? Of course it does.
I take your point, and the potential is very damaging. But like, you know, regardless of how much these players cost, you've still got to have a manager, a coach to put them together, to sign the right players in the first instance, to have that chemistry,
he excels
to improve players,
exactly.
which we hear all the time that he does.
And there's never a question mark about, you know, has Guardiola got control of the dressing room? Is there egos? Is there complacency? Are people getting ahead of themselves? Are they listening to him?
Sure.
Do you hear a load of other Premier League clubs where you hear people say, you know, modern footballers are different. They need to be... No one says that about Man City players. There's a man in charge.
Yes.
No one says those kind of apologetic kind of terms to explain daft behaviour by players. The City players are managed effectively.
Yeah. And there's another kind of, I suppose, one of the key points for me, and look, we do have to follow this process through, and if there is, you know, that there's an appeals process, etc., which will carry the thing on probably till summer 2025. Like, name me any club in the world who wouldn't want Pep Guardiola as their manager.
Yeah, I mean, he's
there isn't one
of the best for sure.
Or maybe Man United.
No matter what happens with the charges, whatever, he's a mastermind of management. He's one of the best coaches that's ever, you know, been involved in the game. You know, he's changed football in a sense in Premier League. I think the way teams play and the way teams set up, and I think he even plays chess in his pastime. He just doesn't.
Kasparov,
think
the Grand Master, is like his best pal, I believe. Anyway,
But he thinks like he doesn't switch off. And what we're getting back to the start of the conversation was, when will it be the end for Pep at Man City? Because the stresses of management, you know, travelling back from Copenhagen tonight, preparing for another game at the weekend, it's just continuous. It's a 24/7 job, you know, and it's relentless, and maybe that's why Klopp is stepping back, because he can't do it anymore. How long will Pep do it for? That's the question.
Well, there you go. He has a contract until the end of next season.